The sky burned red over Denver, a wound torn open by the Krath Dominion's orbital lances. Lena Navarro crouched in the shadow of a collapsed maglev station, her breath fogging in the cold. The air smelled of ozone and ash, the aftermath of the aliens' first strike. 3 days ago, humanity had met its first extraterrestrial visitors. 2 days ago, those visitors had razed the Luna colonies. Yesterday they'd hit Mars. Now Earth was next. Lena's tablet flickered, its cracked screen displaying a looping feed from the Krath's flagship. The alien commander, Zorath, a towering figure with segmented limbs and eyes like molten gold, spoke in a synthesized voice that echoed across every human frequency. "People of Earth, your species is young, your technology crude. Surrender your planet and live as our vassals, or be erased from the stars." She clenched her fist, nails biting into her palm. Vassals, the word tasted like bile. Lena had lost her wife Mara and their son Eli in the Luna attack. The Krath hadn't just taken her family, they'd taken her future. But surrender, that wasn't in her blood, not in humanity's. She sprinted through the rubble, her boots crunching on shattered glass, toward the resistance bunker buried beneath the Rockies. The entrance was a camouflaged hatch, guarded by 2 volunteers with scavenged rifles. They nodded as she slipped inside, descending into a maze of concrete tunnels lit by flickering LEDs. The bunker was a relic of the resource wars, now packed with survivors, engineers, soldiers, hackers, and civilians who refused to kneel. Inside the command room, a dozen faces turned to her. Diego Reyes, a grizzled ex-soldier with scars crisscrossing his jaw, leaned against a wall. Dr. Aisha Malik, a linguist with a knack for cracking encrypted systems, hunched over a console, her fingers flying across a keyboard. The air buzzed with tension, the weight of the Krath's ultimatum pressing down. "They're serious," Diego said, his voice rough. "The Galactic Concord just sent a message. They're begging us to surrender. Say the Krath have crushed empires older than ours." Aisha snorted, not looking up from her screen. "The Concord's a bunch of spineless bureaucrats. They've got tech we can't dream of, but they're scared of a fight. Typical." Lena set her tablet on the table, Zorath's image frozen mid-threat. "The Concord can grovel all they want, we're not surrendering. Earth's ours. They want it, they'll have to bleed for it." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. A young technician, barely 20, raised his hand. "But their ships, they're faster, stronger. Our orbitals are scrap. How do we fight that?" Lena's eyes narrowed. She'd asked herself the same question 100 times since Luna burned. But she'd also spent years building spacecraft, coaxing miracles from scrap and sweat. If there was one thing humans were good at, it was defying the odds. "We don't fight their way," she said. "We fight ours. They think we're primitives, fine. We'll use every trick we've got, EMP bursts, hacked comms, whatever it takes. But first we send a message, not just to the Krath, but to the whole damn galaxy." Aisha grinned, her dark eyes glinting. "You're talking about a broadcast, something to show we're not rolling over." "Exactly," Lena said. "We show them who we are, every disaster we've survived, every war we've won, every time we should have died but didn't. Let the Krath see what they're up against." Diego crossed his arms. "And when they come for us." Lena's lips curved into a grim smile. "Then we make them regret it." The room erupted into action. Aisha patched into global networks, hijacking satellites to amplify their signal. Technicians dragged out crates of scavenged equipment, old radios, server banks, even a dusty projector from a pre-war museum. Lena stood at the center, scripting the broadcast in her head. She thought of Mara teaching Eli to read, of the stories they'd shared about humanity's triumphs, pyramids rising from sand, ships touching the moon, cities reborn from rubble. That was the fire she'd pour into this message. Hours later, the bunker hummed with energy. Aisha's console glowed with a cobbled-together transmitter, its signal ready to pierce the Krath's blockade. Lena stood before a salvaged camera, its lens cracked but functional. Behind her, a screen flickered with images, ancient warriors forging swords, astronauts planting flags, survivors pulling each other from ruins. The room fell silent as she began to speak. "This is Earth," Lena said, her voice steady. "You call us primitive. You demand our surrender. You don't know us. We've walked through ice ages. We've clawed our way out of wars that scarred continents. We've stared extinction in the face and built rockets to the stars. You want our home? Come and take it." She paused, letting the words hang. The screen behind her flashed with defiance, a montage of human resilience, from cave paintings to fusion reactors. Aisha layered in music, a swelling human anthem that had survived centuries. The signal blasted out, overriding Krath frequencies, reaching every corner of Earth and beyond. In the Krath flagship, Zorath's eyes narrowed as the broadcast filled his bridge. His officers chittered in confusion, their mandibles twitching. "What is this noise?" one hissed. Zorath silenced them with a gesture. "It is defiance," he said, his voice cold. "They are insects, yet they challenge us. They will learn their place." But across the galaxy in the Concorde's opulent halls, alien diplomats leaned closer to their screens. Whispers spread. These humans, so small, so fragile, refused to bow. For the first time the galaxy wondered what were humans capable of. Back in the bunker, Lena stepped away from the camera, her heart pounding. Diego clapped her shoulder. That'll piss them off. Good, Lena said. Let them come, we're ready. The ground trembled, a distant Krath bombardment. The war had begun. The bunker's command room smelled of stale coffee and overheated circuits, a gritty reminder of humanity's precarious stand. Lena Navarro stood at a salvaged holodable, its flickering display casting blue light across her face. The map showed Earth's major cities: Denver, Shanghai, Lagos, pocked with red icons where Krath orbital strikes had hit. The aliens' ultimatum still echoed in her mind. Surrender or be erased. Her broadcast, defiantly flung into the stars, had bought them time, but not much. The Krath were coming, and humanity needed to hit back. All right, people, Lena said, her voice cutting through the murmur of the crowded room. We've told the galaxy we're not quitting, now we prove it. Ideas. Diego Reyes, leaning against a concrete wall, tapped his scarred knuckles on a crate of scavenged rifles. We've got maybe 100 fighters here, half-trained. Their ships outgun us 1,000 to 1. We need weapons, something to even the odds. Dr. Aisha Malik, perched on a stool with her tablet balanced on her knees, didn't look up from her screen. Weapons won't help if we can't hit them. Their shields laugh at our missiles, but their comms sloppy. I've been sniffing their signals, centralized relays, no redundancy, disrupt those and they're blind. Lena nodded, her engineer's mind already spinning. She'd spent years coaxing life from dying spacecraft. Now she'd do the same for a rebellion. EMP burst could fry their relays. We'd need drones, small, fast, expendable. What's our inventory? A young technician, Samir, piped up from the back, his face smudged with grease. We've got scrap from the Denver shipyard, old survey drones, mining bots. Half are busted, but I can rig them with pulse capacitors. Won't be pretty, but they'll spark. Pretty's overrated, Lena said, a faint smile breaking through her exhaustion. Get on it, Samir. Aisha, can you map their relay network? Already on it, Aisha replied, her fingers dancing across her tablet. Give me a day, and I'll have their comms laid bare. Oh, and I'm thinking we throw in some psychological warfare. Flood their channels with human noise, memes, music, whatever. Let's mess with their heads. Diego snorted. You want to rickroll aliens? Why not? Aisha grinned. If they're confused, they're not shooting straight. The room chuckled, a brief spark of levity in the gloom. Lena seized it, knowing morale was as vital as weapons. Keep it human, Aisha. That's our edge. Diego, round up anyone who can hold a gun. We'll need ground teams to protect our launch sites. Everyone else, scavenge anything useful, batteries, wiring, old tech. We're building an army from scraps. As the group dispersed, Lena's gaze lingered on the holodable. The Krath's red icons pulsed like a heartbeat, a reminder of the ticking clock. She thought of Mara and Eli, their faces burned into her memory from a hollow still in her pocket. Grief threatened to swallow her, but she shoved it down. There'd be time to mourn when Earth was safe. By dawn, the bunker was a hive of activity. Samir's team dragged crates of drone parts into a makeshift workshop, sparks flying as they welded capacitors onto rusted frames. Aisha's console hummed with intercepted Krath signals, her screen flashing with alien glyphs she was slowly decoding. Diego drilled volunteers in a cavernous storage bay, barking orders as civilians fumbled with rifles. Lena moved between groups, troubleshooting drone circuits, reviewing Aisha's data and reassuring a nervous medic who'd never seen combat. Outside, the Rockies loomed under a bruised sky, their peaks dusted with snow. Satellites, those still functional, relayed grim updates. Krath cruisers patrolled low orbit, their scanners sweeping for resistance. Smaller scout ships darted through the atmosphere, bombing anything that moved. Lena knew their first strike had to count. A misstep would invite annihilation. Aisha called her over at noon, her voice edged with excitement. Got something. Their relay satellites are clustered in geosync orbit, right above the equator. Hit those and their fleet's coordination goes to hell, but they're shielded. Standard kinetics won't dent them. Lena studied Aisha's screen, a 3D map of glowing Krath satellites. EMP drones could overload their shields. Samir's rigs might do it, but we'll need a launch platform, something mobile, hard to track. There's an old maglev freight line in Wyoming, Diego said, joining them. Mostly intact, runs through canyons. We could mount a launcher on a flat car, keep moving to dodge their scans. Risky, Lena said, but it's a start. Get a team to scout it. We'll need decoys too, fake signals to draw their scouts away. Aisha raised an eyebrow. You're thinking like a guerrilla already. I'm impressed. Necessity's a good teacher, Lena said dryly. She turned to the holodable, plotting the Wyoming line. We launch in 3 days, sooner if the Krath escalate. That night, Lena found Diego in the storage bay cleaning a rifle with methodical precision. His volunteers had collapsed into sleeping bags. their snores echoing off the walls. She sat beside him, the cold floor seeping through her fatigues. "You think we've got a shot?" Diego asked, not looking up. "Honest, it's a long one," Lena admitted, "but we've got something they don't. Desperation makes us unpredictable." Diego chuckled, a low rumble. "My old CO used to say humans fight best with their backs to the wall. Guess we're about to prove it." Lena nodded, her thoughts drifting to the broadcast. It had gone viral across Earth, patched through makeshift networks. Civilians were hiding, arming themselves, whispering defiance in ruined cities. The Krath hadn't expected that. They'd assumed humanity would fracture, but instead it was coalescing, messy, chaotic, but fierce. "Got a kid out there," Diego said suddenly, his voice soft. "In Lagos, haven't heard from her since the strikes." Lena's chest tightened. "We'll get through this, Diego, for her, for all of them." He met her eyes, a flicker of hope breaking through his stoicism. "Yeah, for them." The next day, Aisha's psychological warfare kicked into gear. She'd cracked enough Krath protocols to slip a signal into their comms. A looping feed of human culture designed to baffle. Classic rock blared through alien channels, interspersed with viral videos and memes. A dancing cat, a dramatic movie monologue, even a looped "never gonna give you up." Lena overheard Aisha cackling as she uploaded a clip of a human chef flambeing a steak, captioned, "This is how we cook our enemies." "Think it'll work?" Lena asked, peering over Aisha's shoulder. "Work?" Aisha smirked. "I intercepted a Krath officer's report. They're calling us chaotic primates and freaking out about our cultural noise. It's working." Lena laughed, the sound startling her. It felt good, like a small rebellion in itself. By the third day, Samir's drones were ready. 20 jury-rigged machines, each the size of a backpack, bristling with capacitors that hummed ominously. They weren't elegant, held together with duct tape and hope, but Lena's tests showed they'd deliver a pulse strong enough to fry Krath electronics. The Wyoming maglev was operational, its flat car fitted with a launcher cobbled from salvaged missile racks. Diego's scouts had set up decoy signals in Montana, luring Krath scouts north. The resistance gathered in the bunker's main bay, faces lit by the drone's faint glow. Lena climbed onto a crate, her voice carrying over the crowd. "This is it," she said. "The Krath think we're beaten. They think we'll break, but we're humans. We don't break, we build, we fight, we win. These drones are our first shot, and they won't be our last, for Earth, for everyone we've lost." The crowd roared, a raw, defiant sound. Diego saluted her with his rifle. Aisha flashed a thumbs up. Samir beamed, proud of his Frankenstein drones. As the team loaded the drones onto trucks bound for Wyoming, Lena lingered in the bay, her hand brushing the hollow of Mara and Eli in her pocket. The Krath had taken so much, but they'd underestimated one thing: humanity's fire. She'd stoked that fire until it burned the aliens out of her sky. Aboard the Krath flagship, Zorath studied a report from his comms officer. Human signals had infected their network. Nonsensical images, sounds, and phrases. His mandibles twitched in irritation. "These creatures are irrational," he said. "Their defiance is futile. Prepare the next bombardment. We will teach them submission." But in a lower deck, a young Krath officer named Tarek Voon watched the human signals on a stolen screen. A video of humans dancing under a starry sky stirred something in him. A flicker of doubt. The Krath valued order, but these humans thrived in chaos. What if they were more than insects? Tarek hid the screen as footsteps approached, his mind racing. The war was only beginning. The Wyoming night was a shroud of frost and shadow, the canyon walls looming like the edges of a trap. Lena Navarro knelt beside the maglev freight car, her breath clouding in the sub-zero air as she checked the drone launcher's wiring. The 20 EMP drones, Samir's duct-taped miracles, hummed softly in their racks, their capacitors glowing with pent-up energy. This was humanity's first real counterstrike against the Krath Dominion, and the weight of it pressed on Lena's shoulders like a physical force. 3 days after their defiant broadcast, the resistance was ready to prove they weren't just talk. Diego Reyes crouched nearby, his rifle scope scanning the starry sky. "Scouts report clear," he whispered, his voice rough over the comms. "Decoys in Montana are working, Krath ships are sniffing the wrong trail, but we've got a narrow window." Lena nodded, her gloved fingers tightening a loose bolt on the launcher. "Aisha's got their relay satellites pinned. We hit those, their fleet's comms go dark. They'll be swinging blind." "Assuming your toys work," Diego said, glancing at the drones. "No offense to Samir, but they look like they'll fall apart if you sneeze." "They'll hold," Lena said, her tone sharper than she intended. She trusted Samir's work, had to. Doubt was a luxury they couldn't afford. "Launch in 10, get your team ready." Diego grunted, signaling his ground crew, 12 volunteers armed with scavenged rifles and makeshift grenades. Their job was to protect the launcher if Krath scouts got too close. Lena climbed onto the flat car, where Samir monitored a battered console, his face lit by its flickering screen. Capacitors at 90%, Samir said, his voice tight with nerves. We're good, but, Lena, if the pulse isn't strong enough, those satellites won't fry. We'll just piss them off. Then we'll piss them off spectacularly, Lena said, forcing a grin. Samir's anxious eyes met hers, and she clapped his shoulder. You did good, kid. These drones are our middle finger to the Krath. Let's make it count. Samir managed a shaky smile, returning to his console. Lena's gaze shifted to the canyon's rim, where the maglev track stretched into darkness. The plan was simple but insane. Launch the drones from the moving freight car, use the canyon's cover to evade Krath scanners, and disrupt their relay network. Aisha's hack had confirmed the satellite's position, geosynchronous orbit, 36,000 kilometers up, but their shields meant only a precise EMP burst would work. One miscalculation and the Krath would rain fire on Wyoming. Aisha's voice crackled through Lena's earpiece. Yo boss, I'm in their comms again, just dropped a loop of Bohemian Rhapsody into their flagship's bridge. They're losing it, calling us auditory terrorists. Lena stifled a laugh. Keep them distracted, Aisha, we're rolling. The maglev hummed to life, its magnetic coils vibrating as the flat car lurched forward. Lena gripped the launcher's frame, the wind whipping her face as the train accelerated through the canyon. Stars blurred above, their light fractured by Krath patrol ships' distant glow. Her heart pounded, a mix of fear and defiance. This was for Mara, for Eli, for every human the Krath had burned. 5 minutes to launch, Samir called, his voice steadying. Drone synced. Diego's team fanned out along the car's edges, their silhouettes dark against the canyon walls. Lena scanned the sky, her tablet showing Aisha's real-time map of Krath satellites. The target cluster was directly overhead, a constellation of alien tech holding their fleet together. One good hit and the Krath's coordination would crumble. Then a red alert flashed on her tablet. Scout ship inbound, Aisha warned. Montana decoys didn't catch them all. It's closing fast, 2 clicks north. Damn it, Lena muttered. Diego, can you draw it off? On it, Diego replied. He barked orders and half his team peeled away, sprinting to a ridge with flare launchers. Seconds later, magnesium-bright flares arced skyward, painting the canyon in stark white. The Krath scout, a sleek crimson wedge, veered toward the decoy, its scanners pulsing. Nice work, Lena said, her pulse easing slightly. Samir, status? 30 seconds, Samir shouted, his fingers flying over the console. The drone's hum rose to a shrill whine, their capacitors primed. Lena braced herself, the maglev roaring through a tunnel. Darkness swallowed them, the launcher's glow the only light. Her mind raced. Mara's laugh, Eli's tiny hand in hers, the Luna colony's flames. She shoved the memories down. Focus, survive, fight. The tunnel spat them out and Samir yelled, launch. The drones shot upward, their thrusters flaring blue. 20 streaks of light pierced the sky, weaving to evade Krath countermeasures. Lena tracked them on her tablet, her breath held. The satellites were dots on the screen, their shields shimmering in orbit. The drones closed the gap. 10,000 kilometers, 5,000, 1,000. Impact, Samir cheered. The tablet flared with data. EMP pulses detonated, cascading across the Krath satellites. Their shields flickered, then died. Static flooded Aisha's intercepted comms, Krath officers chittering in panic. Lena's heart soared, it worked. The fleet was blind. But the victory was short-lived. A low rumble shook the canyon, and Diego's voice cut through the comms. Incoming, that scout's back and it's pissed. The Krath scout ship screamed overhead, its plasma cannon spitting green fire. The maglev rocked, a near miss scorching the canyon wall. Lena dove for cover, shielding Samir as debris rained down. Diego's team returned fire, their rifles useless against the ship's armor but buying time. Keep moving, Lena shouted. The maglev surged, its coils straining. The scout looped for another pass, its cannons charging. Aisha's voice broke through. I'm jamming its targeting, hold on. The scout's next shot went wide, blasting a boulder into dust. Lena scrambled to the launcher, its frame warped but intact. Samir, can we fire again? No drones left, Samir yelled. Panic creeping in, we're sitting ducks. Lena's mind raced. The launcher's capacitors still held a charge, enough for one improvised pulse if she could rig it. She tore open a panel, her hands moving on instinct, splicing wires with a multi-tool. Sparks flew, burning her gloves, but she didn't flinch. Years of jury-rigging spacecraft had taught her one thing humans may do. Diego, keep that scout busy, she called. Diego's team unleashed another volley of flares, drawing the scout's fire. A volunteer screamed, caught in a plasma blast, and Lena's stomach twisted. No time for grief. She slammed the panel shut, the launcher humming dangerously. Everybody down, she roared. She triggered the pulse. A shockwave of electromagnetic energy erupted, a visible ripple tearing through the air. The scout ship's lights flickered, its engines stalling. It plummeted, crashing into the canyon in a fireball that lit the night. The maglev screeched to a halt, its coils smoking. Lena collapsed against the launcher, her hands trembling. Diego's team cheered, their voices ragged but triumphant. Samir stared at the wreckage wide-eyed. We did it, he stammered. Barely, Lena said, catching her breath. Her tablet pinged. Aisha's update showed the Krath fleet in disarray, their ships drifting without comms. The strike had worked, but the scouts' attack meant the Krath knew their location. They had to move. Diego, get everyone back to the trucks, Lena ordered. We're not safe here. As the team scrambled, Lena lingered, staring at the scouts' burning husk. The Krath were learning. Humans weren't just defiant, they were dangerous. Good, let them fear. Aboard the Krath flagship, Zorath slammed a clawed limb onto his console, his bioluminescent eyes flaring. The human attack had crippled their relay network, forcing his fleet to rely on manual signals. Reports flooded in. Scout ships lost, comms infected with human noise, officers rattled by the primate's audacity. These creatures are vermin, Zorath hissed, unpredictable, chaotic, increase bombardments, burn their cities until they kneel. Below decks, Tarek Voon stood in a maintenance bay, a stolen human signal playing on his hidden screen. It was a video from the human broadcast, a montage of humans rebuilding after a flood, their faces fierce with hope. Tarek's mandibles twitched. The Krath taught that weakness deserved destruction, but these humans turned weakness into strength. He'd seen the scout ship's data before it crashed. A single human machine cobbled from scrap had brought it down. Tarek glanced at his fellow officers, their chittering filled with scorn for the humans, but Tarek felt something else. Curiosity, perhaps, or dread. He powered off the screen, his segmented fingers lingering. The humans were changing the war, and he wasn't sure the Krath could adapt. Back in the Rockies, Lena's team returned to the bunker at dawn, exhausted but alive. Aisha met them in the bay, her tablet glowing with intercepted Krath chatter. You guys are legends, she said, grinning. Their fleet's a mess. We've got breathing room, maybe a week before they regroup. Lena nodded, too tired to smile. The volunteer lost in the canyon weighed on her, a reminder of the cost. She pulled the hollow of Mara and Eli from her pocket, their faces frozen in happier times. We keep going, she said quietly. For them. Diego clapped her shoulder. We will, but first you sleep. That's an order. Lena managed a weak laugh, heading for her bunk. The Krath would come harder next time, but humanity was ready to meet them. Not with polished fleets, but with scrap, grit, and a stubborn refusal to break. The galaxy was watching, and Lena intended to give them a show.